wrote this game in Twine because I want you to have a little self-determination about how this talk goes. So what we're going to do is you are actually going to choose the adventure. My name is Heidi Waterhouse. I'm here from Launch Darkly. We do feature flags as a service. And the more I think about feature flags, the bigger they get. It's so exciting. So I want to give you a chance to learn about it. I'm going to show you how this works. So we're going to start with launch time. So this is Toggle. In space, there is no orientation. Toggle is our non-binary space explorer, and I love them. And we're going to pack everything that Toggle needs for a trip. So here we need some rocket fuel. Want to make sure you don't get that going too early. It's very time sensitive. This is not much different than the rocket fuel that we actually use, except Mentos won't kill you. So Toggle's job is to fly through space and put markers on planets so that the space liners know where to go. Because it turns out there are a lot of different ways to get through space, and you want to find the most efficient way, or the most scenic way, or the way that makes the most sense for your needs. So Toggle's going to go through and mark all of these planets, and then the home office is going to use these markers to guide the space liners. And because I'm a giant nerd, these are heliographs. All right, Toggle has an amazing crew, but they have their support system back home. And I want you to think about how it is you can use feature flags to support both your users and the people who are making things happen. And then, here's the one you really want to take a picture of. I have a team that makes navigating deployments safer and easier. And if you would like to ask them questions or get a free t-shirt, you can go to this URL, and we will send you a t-shirt and some stickers. All right, so what do we want, team? Adventure choices or case study? Adventure, okay. So, I know, I had way too much fun with this. So what do you want to go do first? Oops. There we go. It's like ops, but with sadness. All right, what do you think? Kill switch. All right, so something has gone wrong with that feature you just pushed to production. It is causing some kind of cascade failure. It is going sideways in a way that's taking down servers as if they were dominoes. I would like to turn that off. How fast can you turn something off in production?
2 hours.
2 hours. Oh my God, that's terrible. How about you? How about 200 milliseconds? If you have it wrapped in a feature toggle, all you have to do is turn it off. You're not redeploying. You're not sending out new code. You're just sending out an instruction that says, yo, shit's broken. Let's stop. And if you have it distributed out on your edge, it can be really, really fast. So that's pretty awesome. What are we going to do next? Back to oops, or definitely the albatross. Okay, so albatross launches are the opposite of a canary launch. Lots of you know about canary launches where you're like, I'm going to try this new feature with like 5% of my people to make sure it doesn't go sideways. So you ever have that client where they're like, I'm never leaving Java 4? And you're like, you know what century this is, right? And they're like, no, it's a deal breaker. It is mission critical. It runs the janky mainframe in the basement that is the core of our entire business. So we're never leaving Java 4. You're like, but I want to upgrade everybody else, and I can't keep you back here if I'm up here with them. So what you do is you wrap their stuff in a flag and deliver it only to them. Nobody else gets to see that you have Java 4. But if they are paying you enough money, you can have an albatross launch and drag them along behind you for as long as they make it worthwhile. All right, what next? How about deployment? Deployment is not the same thing as activation. Let me just say this. When you deploy code, you are pushing it out, right? We all agree that that's pretty much what's happening. It's not the same as activation. It's not the same as turning it on. You ever have that thing where you get a box shipped to you and you don't know exactly what's in it? I mean, Amazon has told you what's in it, but you don't know until you open it what's in it. That's what we're doing. We're saying, here's your box. Are you interested in what's in it? Do you want to open it up and activate it? So as people who are serving software, we can push everything out. That doesn't mean we have to show people everything. Let's not. All right, anything here you want? Testing. So dog food is for developers, right? But there comes a time when you want to test something internally with people who are not developers, but still are not customers, that middle state of humans. So we say, why don't you just turn this on for people inside the company? You have a new feature, you're excited about getting it out, but you only want to turn it on for people who are going to not fire you if it turns out to be terrible. So in addition to dog food, which lots of people can do by running their own like sort of internal under their desk servers. I mean, we don't do that anymore. We have AWS now, but emotionally they are the server that sits under our desk and keeps our feet warm. Instead of that, let's just serve to everybody inside our company. That'd be exciting, right? All right. Where are we going? Dog food. All right, so we just talked about internal testing. Now we're going to talk, oh, my picture's missing. We're going to talk about dog food. Dog food is, like I said, that thing that you want to be able to test yourself. You build something, but you can only test it in production because so many of us are working at scales and complexity levels that cannot be replicated by our internal system. We're talking dozens of microservices and hops and message volume that we can't do any testing on other than in production. But we don't want production users to see it, God forbid. So what you want to be able to do is put something on production and then only show it to yourself. That would be the best solution. So wrap it in a feature flag and then point it just internally, or just you. You can literally use feature flags to test something just on yourself, but it's still testing in production. What do you think? Merging. So a lot of us came up in a branch-based world. And the way this works, as I'm going to explain as if I knew this, is you check out something, you're going to make a feature, and you work on it for a little while, and theoretically a little while is like a few hours to a day, and in effect a little while can be as much as like 3 weeks. And then you go to put it back into main, and it turns out your buddy has also been working on that same section of code. And there's a problem wherein you have both made changes to the same place without knowing the other person was working in it. Changes may be compatible, the changes may not be compatible, but you're going to have that discussion, that moment where you're like, well, let's cherry pick these, let's squash it. I have a lot of Git trauma. I keep saying that my career after this is going to be mental health therapist specializing in Git. And I think I will make money at it, I'm just saying. So anyway, you have this terrible merge problem where you have all of this stuff that you have to reunite, and it's problematic because you don't know what the other person is doing or why. All right, so let's go look at adventure choices again. What do we want? User fun. Users are great. Users experience our software in a lot of ways that we don't. So whatever users' goal is, we want to make sure they get it. Because I keep saying this, nobody wants to be using software. They want to catch a Pokemon. They want to find an ATM. They want to continue getting paid so they can live indoors and eat food. But nobody says to themselves, you know what I'd like to do? I'd like to use some software today. It's just not a thing. So we have to remember that users are not here to enjoy our tool. They're here to get something done. So we need to give them whatever it is they're looking for. So pick one. Accessibility. So this is a React menu, and it's great if your fingers are sort of normal human finger sized and you're touching something. It is less great if you're trying to use tab control or voice control. It turns out that accessibility isn't like one universal thing. We'd like it to be possible to do universal design. Universal design is a beautiful dream. It is a goal, but it turns out that different people have different disabilities and therefore need different accessibility. So I want us to be able to design software that lets us give people the accessibility they need. Some people have visual impairments and need screen readers to work, and some people have audio impairments and need to never have something talk to them as an essential part of interaction. So what if we could say, here are all our accessibility options, pick the ones that you need? Because we are all only temporarily able-bodied. We're all sitting here and maybe we have some adaptive devices, but I tell you, disability is coming for us all. I started thinking about this when I finally got to the reading glasses stage. I'm like, what? What? It turns out I am not a magical human who will forever remain 25 and in the prime of my life? No, we're still all doing pretty well, but there are people who have trouble and they are sitting with us and next to us. And we need to be thinking about how to make accessibility not just a rote thing, but a choice. All right, what do we want? Colors. Users have a lot of feelings about their interfaces. Colors is also part of accessibility. Like, some of us need higher contrast text, and some of us need larger text, and some of us deliberately set our Windows machines to hot dog stand. So whatever it is that users want, we need to be able to give them their customized experience. Like, I think it's really interesting how many people change their default desktop colors. Like, does it really matter? No. Are the default desktop colors scientifically and professionally chosen by color experts? Yes. Did you change the color that your highlight is? How many of you changed the color of your highlights? Yeah, see? Some people care. So most people don't care, but the people who care enough to go in and futz with it. So let's think about that. All right, SSO customization. Single sign-on is awesome. It says, here's who I am, here's what I want. What we want to be able to provide people is the ability to say, here's my desktop experience with my accessibility, with my colors, with my preferred language, with my preferred time zone. Like, I have given up on all time zones and I relate only to UTC. Like, sure, why not? Why can't we use people's single sign-on to give them that customized experience before we ask them to do anything else? Like, it should follow you around. Your experience of a software should follow you around wherever you go. All right. Adventure choices. What do we want?
Security and compliance.
Security and compliance. I just added this one. I'm very excited about it. So we're talking about DevSecOps, right? It's kind of important that we make sure bad actors or accidental actors don't get our information. So when you're sending flags back and forth, one of the problems is they have a label that says things like, if user password equals, reject it because it has special characters. We maybe don't want to label that as user password. Like, even if you're sending it encrypted, there are some points where that has to be unencrypted. So if you're sending flags that have revealing names, you want to be able to wrap them in a user attribute that's private, that's like some kind of hashed code that only decrypts at certain known places. Because I don't know about you, but I think there's a lot of information hidden in the metadata of the way we describe software. Where are we going? RBAC. So if you have the ability to hit a kill switch and turn off a significant portion of your code, Do you want everybody to be able to do that? No. That seems like it might end badly. As a person who sometimes hits the wrong button, I just like to say, don't let me do that. But you want role-based access control that says, this person has permission to change these feature flags. And you want to not say, this person particularly, like Bridget has the ability to turn these things on. Because Bridget might leave or go on vacation, and we don't want to page her. We rather want to say, system administrators of at least this level have the ability to turn things on and off. Or only marketing has the right to change flags that deal with marketing. That'd be a better idea. So we want to make sure that when we're building feature flags, we're doing role-based access control, we're taking care of how that works. Because otherwise, it's kind of a free-for-all. The other advantage is you shouldn't be able to see flags that you can't affect, and that'll really significantly cut down on the sort of mental overhead of looking at all the flags. So that seems good. All right? Auditing. All right. So auditing has two main features. One of them is, auditors show up. And we just finished our SOC 2 level 2. Yeah. And it was a lot of like, here you are, auditor, please don't hate us. And it is a stack like this, right? And what you want to be able to do is say, this is every person who has touched this flag. This is every person who has access to it. This is you can get down to like, this is every time this flag has been used. Like, we've swapped all of these users with unique identifiers into this category. You want to be able to audit it in a tamper-proof way to make sure that nobody is, accidentally diverting 1 penny per transaction, right? So auditing is important. And also, it helps you a lot when you're doing troubleshooting. Because you're like, I did a thing, I don't know what happened. It's that if you're doing a murder mystery, you'd like to have some clues. Your audit log is going to be that kind of clue. All right, how am I doing on time? I'm good. Good. Okay, what do we want? Sales and marketing. Lots of people don't think about feature flags as a sales and marketing thing. We think about it as an operations thing. We think about it as a testing thing. But if you can affect whether or not a feature appears, that's a big sales and marketing thing. So which one do you want? Currency. So it turns out that dollar doesn't necessarily mean dollar. I noticed this when I was using Expensify, and I went to Canada, and things cost, $78. Well, which dollar? If only I had some kind of, location fencing, geofencing that would say, you spent that money in Canada. It's probably Canadian dollars. That would be super useful to me. Or say you're a hotel in Australia that actually handled this really well. They're like, okay, so here's how much it costs in American dollars because we see that you're coming from America, and we're going to charge you this in Australian dollars because that's how our money works here. Okay, that seems great. So if you're using any kind of international software, you want to be able to say, this is the currency for people making purchases in this location, charge their credit card in this currency or that currency. All right? So what else? Feature tiers. All right, so you know that thing where LinkedIn has 2 states? And one state is you have upgraded to the Pro plan, and the other state is they are pestering you incessantly to upgrade to the Pro plan. I've done both, and I have to say it's almost worth the Pro plan just to not get pestered. And what they're doing there is using feature flags to say, hey, this person has given us money. Turn off the pestermatic. And I would like you to not build a pestermatic because it's really aggravating. But I also want you to think about how it is possible for us to use feature tiering, or use tiering with feature flags to separate people out without having to say, like, log in, right? Sometimes you just want to say, hey, you're coming from this domain, your company's paying for it, that's great, go. Like, I would love it if Trello realized that. But I'm like, you're Atlassian now, right? Not yet. So I really think feature tiering and price tiering is a way to use feature flags in sales and marketing. And there's a bunch of other stuff in this presentation, but I'm going to move on because we have finite time and there are like 100 opportunities and things in here. So we're going to move on to the case study. So Toggle's hypothetical spaceline company wants to add feature management using flags. And there's a few ways they can approach this problem. So what do you think they choose to start with? Terraforming. So these are existing planets or planets that already have spaceline flags on them, but they're outdated and we need to like pull them together and make them part of the system. So there's nothing magical about what you're going to do. There's only 3 ways you can upgrade an existing system. What do you think?
Rip off the Band-Aid.
Rip off the Band-Aid. It's gonna hurt. It is super painful to stop what you're doing for a couple weeks and go through and wrap every feature you have in a flag. But the advantage is, because you're doing it all at once, you can do consistent naming, and you can think about like the groups of flags, and you can nest them, and you can say like, all of these are dependent on this flag, if this, then that, like multivariate flag application. It's all much easier to do if you're doing it once in one giant push. So there's that, but I will say there's no way to make it not suck, because ripping off the Band-Aid hurts. All right? Training is hard. Teaching people to change the way they work is hard. Adding a new muscle memory for I'm going to create a new feature, instead of creating a new branch, I'm going to put a feature flag around this. Muscle memory is hard to retrain, and a lot of us have been working in branch-based systems for a long time. So it's going to be hard, and people are going to resist you, and they're not going to do it right, but it's going to be worthwhile, because eventually you learn to do it right. So when I was in college, my mom and my sister both came down with carpal tunnel, and I retaught myself to touch type from QWERTY to Dvorak, because I'm a giant nerd. And it was really agonizing, because I went from like 85 words a minute down to like 15 words a minute. And I was like, this sucks. Why did I do this? This is terrible. Oh wait, I can't go back to QWERTY because now I've unlearned everything. But it turns out that now I type 85 words a minute, and I still don't have carpal tunnel. So I think we're going to say training sucks and it's hard, but it's worthwhile. So eventually you get to the point where everything works great. Toggle loves everyone in this space cantina. Yay! So let's go look at unexplored planets. Greenfield construction, right? Which one are we going to do? Get in branches. Lots of you work in this right now. What planet do you want? Planet 2. Merge conflict. Sad for you. I hope you like cherry picking. All right, we're going to try left planet. Oh, everything goes fine. It works fine because it has been working fine, and you've been doing fine with this system, right? You know how this works. You have workarounds and systems and procedures for this. I'm not going to say that feature flags are the only way to develop. Get in branches works fine. It's just you don't have some of the opportunities that you have other ways. So, you know, have a space flag or a space cake. All right, flags and mainline. it's really interesting to me to talk to people who are coming out of a few big companies. Google and Facebook are the ones that I think of right now, where they're like, every time they leave the mothership and they go out and develop someplace else, and they're like, this feels so weird because we have all these branches. I'm used to working in trunk. And it seems terrifying to us. Like, are you serious? You only have like the code? That's all you have is the code? What if something goes wrong? Well, if something goes wrong, you turn it off. Or you shunt it aside. Or you don't commit it because you tested it. But it turns out it's not really inherently more dangerous as long as you're doing proper access control and auditing. And it's a really freeing and different way to think, to say, we all know what everyone is doing. We can see all the code that is happening all the time. It's a little terrifying when you're talking about that kind of scale, but it's still a really empowering way to work. So what planet do we want? Planet up. So you want to deploy and test quietly before the crowd. You push the deploy, you test it as dog food, it works fine. You test it internally, it works fine. You canary test it, it works fine. You roll it out to Australia because they are the slowest internet, and if it works fine there, it's going to work everywhere else. Poor souls. And then you can roll it out to everybody else. And so there's a lot of testing in there. There's a lot of checks. There's a lot of places that you can catch things going wrong. It's pretty exciting to be able to do dark launching, to be able to say, this is how we rolled it out and nobody ever had glitches. All right, Planet Charmed. What if, on the other hand, your feature fails fast? You're like, you dog-fooded it, it seemed fine. You rolled it out internally, it seemed fine. You rolled it out to your canary, and it turns out that this whole thing requires internet speeds that people in rural areas don't have. Well, okay, that failed. And now you know something without having exposed it to everybody. You still only exposed it to 5% of your users or something, and you can go back and fix it without having to do an entire redeploy and recovery and pull things back. You're just like, okay, we're turning that off for now, we're fixing it, we'll try again. Seems pretty good. Okay, so a few years ago, there was a problem with the Best Buy website on Black Friday, in that it fell over and caught on fire, metaphorically. And that was a problem, but that's fine. They stood it back up, but it couldn't stay up because the first thing that happened was everybody who wanted to buy something from Best Buy on Friday hit the site at once. And although the site could have sustained like intermittent load of that nature, it couldn't load every page all new all at the same time. And then the servers fell over and caught on fire again. And so they needed some way to be able to throttle the access of people. Like, it's down for 90% of people. Okay, we got the 10% established. It's down for 80% of people. Okay, ramp it up, slow down your deployment, give it a little time to work effectively. So I am out of time, but 2 reminders. If you would like to learn, 3 reminders. If you'd like to learn more about Launch Darkly, I am here to talk to you. I have stickers at lunch, and I'm going to do an open space on weird ways to use feature flags that aren't just like production on-off. So thank you all for your attention.